Hey everybody, Doug8798 here. This is my worst cartoons list. I'm gonna start off with the cartoons that piss me off the most. And the first cartoon I gotta start off with is Out of Jimmy's Head. This show is no longer on, but it still pisses me off. This show was terrible. The only good thing about this show was its theme song, but the whole show was terrible. This show failed as a sitcom and it failed as a cartoon series. Of course, this is a spin-off and a sequel to that movie Reanimated. Reanimated was cool, nothing special, but this right here was absolutely terrible. Um the acting, the jokes, everything. They even had an annoying laugh track. This even though nothing funny had happened, and this show was the start. I can Cartoon Network was still good around that time, but this show was the start of all that live action garbage we still have to put up with today. The next show, the adventure, the annoying orange. This show is terrible. It's a waste of TV space, which pisses me off the most. It's a waste of TV space, and the show is just garbage, boring, and bland. It's about a talking orange and several other fruits that talk. Like Ben the Looney said, the characters are bland. The main character, Annoying Orange, is annoying, but not funny annoying, just annoying. And like I said, what pisses me off the most is the show is a waste of TV time. You could be showing something much better in that time slot, and it just makes Cartoon Network look bad. Next show, Johnny Test. I first saw Johnny Test back in 2006, and it wasn't anything special in late 2006, and in my opinion, it wasn't anything special. Then they bring it to Cartoon Network in 2008, and they overhype it. They make it seem like it's bigger than it really was. Then they renew seasons of Johnny Test, even though the show was canceled by UPN back in 2008. They renew Johnny Test, and this show keeps getting renewed for seasons. Not only does it keep getting renewed for seasons, it gets airtime. It gets too much airtime on the main channel, Cartoon Network. They even tried airing it on Boomerang. That failed. And then finally, they even waste money producing DVDs of this crap when there are a lot of cartoons that can't even get good DVDs or DVDs at all. So, and the show is just boring. It's a rehash of Dexter's Laboratory and Fairly Odd Parents, but it's nowhere near as good as either one of those shows. And the show is rarely funny. The show is really funny. They do the same jokes, same plots, and gags over again. Their parodies suck, and voice acting, in my opinion, sucks. The voice acting sucks, and I'm sick of the Flash animation technique. That's probably the one thing funny about the show. It's so bad that the Flash animation is so bad that it's funny to look at. Next show, Fanboy and Chum Chum. This show was recently canceled, but this show should have never been on the air. This show made me hate Nickelodeon. I have not cared about Nickelodeon. I stopped caring about Nickelodeon when this show popped up. This show was garbage. It has some of the worst CGI animation I've ever seen. Some of the worst artwork I've ever seen. One of the most annoying theme songs I've ever seen, and the title was stupid. Fanboy and Chum Chum. And this show, not only did it last 4 years, this show is an Emmy Award winning series. How? It even received mixed reviews. Mixed reviews. That means some people thought this was good. This show is terrible. It couldn't even keep my attention for 5 seconds. Oh. Next show, Almost Naked Animals. Man, this show is terrible. This is from Noah Z. Jones. I'm really starting to hate that guy. The same guy who created that Fishhook show. Another awful show. This show is about naked animals. This show is about naked animals with bras and underwear living in a hotel or mansion, something like that. Boring, bland, not funny, not funny, and then once again, not only it's a waste of TV space. Not only does it have a spot on the main channel, Cartoon Network, but it has a 2-hour time slot on weekends on Boomerang, a channel meant for classic cartoons. Almost Naked Animals is not and never will be considered classic. It airs in a 2-hour format. Next show, Teen Titans Go. When I heard that they were bringing back Teen Titans, I immediately got excited, but my excitement turned to disappointment and anger when I realized that Teen Titans Go is not a sequel to the original show. Is not a return of the original show. It's the DC animated shorts that aired on DC Nation, being airing as a half hour show. I was livid. I was disappointed. I was livid when I heard that. Then I was even more angry when I heard that this show, along with Beware the Batman, will be replacing Young Justice and Green Lantern on DC Nation block. On the DC Nation block, and I'm still pissed. I've really not been watching much Cartoon Network because of this show. This show is terrible. This show is terrible. Nothing about the show is funny. The character designs and artwork is terrible. The only redeeming factor, in my opinion, is the theme song and the character voice and the voice actors from the previous series returning. There's also this running gag about Robin wanting a sandwich, and it's not funny. Next show is the very popular Drawn Together. I first saw Drawn Together back in 2004, and I thought the show was terrible. First off, I hate Comedy Central. The only good show in my opinion they had was Beavis and Butthead and Duckman, and I don't even think Duckman was all that good. I haven't watched it since I was a teenager. But this show right here was just random and gross. It was about classic cartoon characters spending the night in a room together, and all this show was just being gross, and it wasn't funny. It was just a cartoon being gross and random. I don't get what the appeal of this cartoon was. Next show, Brickleberry, another garbage Comedy Central animated series. This show, in my opinion, is a garbage version, carbon copy of Family Guy. Except once again, it's nowhere near as good as that show once was, and it's just crappy. Like Ben and Looney said, crappy stereotypes, and crappy stereotypes and lame jokes, and that's what this show is. I really don't like adult cartoons other than a few, which I'm gonna talk about later. Next show, Legos Ninjago. This show is terrible. I don't know how this show gets positive reception and ratings. It is about a bunch of Legos. It is an animated series featuring Legos. The only Lego series that I actually enjoyed was the Bionicles, those Transformers Star Wars like figures they had back in the early to late 2000s. But this right here, Legos Ninjago, Legend of Chimma, another crappy show, are terrible. Legend of Chimma would have been on this list, but I didn't have I couldn't find a picture of that show. But that show is also terrible, and it's a garbage replacement for Thundercats. Next show, the next show is My Gym Partner's a Monkey. Man, I hated this show back when it first aired on Cartoon Network back in 2006. The show was stupid because the main character, Adam Lion, because his last name is Lion, he's a human who gets sent to an animal school. What is this? The show is terrible. It's not funny. The main character, Jake, is annoying, and all the jokes are usually focused on his butt or bathroom humor. Next show, League of Super Evil. League of Super Evil. This show was boring, bland, and in my opinion, it feels like a ripoff of Evil Concurrently, but once again, was nowhere near as good or as interesting or as engaging as that show. This show was boring. It's about supervillains who lose, who suck, who fail. What else? Next show, George of the Jungle, 2007 series. This show was boring. The only thing good about this show was the voice acting, and I hate the fact that the Ocean Dub actors had to be involved in this crappy show. This show right here was boring. The plots were terrible. George, the main character himself, George of the Jungle, he was annoying, and his voice was annoying, and it pisses me off because the George of the Jungle cartoon, the Jay Ward cartoon from the 60s or 70s, I saw in the 90s, was way better than this cartoon, than a reboot. Next, the next cartoon on this list, is, what else? The next cartoon on this list is, oh yes, Captain N and the Game Master. Okay, I actually like this cartoon, but after seeing modern day video game or computer based cartoons like Reboot, the Canadian CGI animated series, Sword Art Online, the anime that airs on Toonami, and Code Lyoko, the French animated series that aired on Maguzi back in the mid 2000s. This show right here is terrible. Like I said, as a Saturday morning cartoon is good, but as an adaptation of video games and Nintendo, it is terrible. The character designs don't match. Mega Man looks like Elroy Jetson and sounds like Popeye. Simon Velmont, the vampire hunter from Castlevania, looks nothing like his character, and personality-wise is nothing like his character. In one episode, he was defeated by a bag. A bad guy snuck up on him and threw a bag over him, and that was it. Also, characters such as Little Mac and Samus, the bounty hunter, are not even in this series. But their boss battles, their villains, their antagonists are. That's King Hippo and Mother Brain. But Little Mac and Samus aren't in this. And I actually enjoy most of the video game-based cartoons like Super Mario Brothers, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Double Dragon, Street Fighter, Mega Man, Mortal Kombat, Defenders of Earthrealm, and even the Darkstalkers cartoon. But this right here was terrible. The last cartoon on this list is the Battletoads pilot that aired in 1990. Of course, Battletoads is based on the beat 'em up video game series in the late 80s, early 90s that was created to compete with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game series. But this pilot was nowhere near as good as the video games. And when I heard there was a Battletoads cartoon, I immediately got excited until I watched this. Once again, my excitement turned to disappointment and anger. What pisses me off is how much potential this series could have had. Yeah, the series was so bad. The pilot was so bad it never became a series. It's only a one episode show, just like Pride of X-Men. But at least Pride of X-Men was actually good. This show was terrible. The artwork and character designs looked like some children's coloring book. The voice acting is the only thing good about the show. Oceaned up voice acting cast, and the theme song was annoying. And the action sequences weren't good either, which pisses me off because Battletoads, once again, it had potential. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Animaniacs with the Animaniacs and Looney Tunes style violence. How hard was that? Well, alright. This was my worst cartoons list. I'm going to do a follow-up to this list with overrated or overhyped cartoons later. Alright, Dugout.